subside quite quick. However, these gas leaks if that gas had to leak into subsoil, that cavities that will then, such as your basements and so forth, if that should happen, we must then report you. If that happens, that will then be fatal. So during the next 72 hours, as we are moving forward, as the city, we've established a multidisciplinary team that is working around the clock to secure the site, conclude the investigations, and also to restore services for residents in the area. The immediate actions being undertaken are as follows. The EgoliGas is currently shutting down the gas pipelines that run through the site of the explosion, and this gradual shutdown will be completed in the next 2 hours. So around 10 p.m. tonight, there should be some form of shutdown by the EgoliGas team. The process to purge the gas will commence under supervision from the city teams on site. The Johannesburg EMS has deployed a fire engine on standby duty at the site, so you'll see it's here with us, to monitor the site and be available to react to any incidents that might occur. So that is really for us to ensure that as a preventative measure, we should then be ready to have a fire engine on site. Johannesburg Water has already isolated the water supply to the area and has deployed water tankers to support the residents in the area. This will also be augmented by the deployment of mobile ablution facilities to provide residents in the affected area. So by tomorrow morning or so, around 10 or 11, we should then have those mobile toilets also in place, all the affected areas. Similarly, once the site is declared safe, Joburg Water will require 3 days to repair the sewer line in the area to reactivate the services. City Power will also be deploying their technicians to assess their power lines for damages along the 400 meters of the site and will only be re-energized the area once it has been declared safe to do so. So I think what is critical here, you would realize that the dependencies for some of the entities, it's really based on the fact that we first need to ensure that we declare the site safe. And I will be indicating why it is taking long and why we cannot use heavy equipment. JMPD and SABC will then barricade the area. You would have realized that as and when you move in the area, you'll start to see those particular barbed wires there, so we'll be barricading that area for efficient management of the site and the creation of safe environment. And this will link to the possibility, because you would recall yesterday we spoke about the possibility of issuing some permits to the residents in that area. But then at that stage we also spoke about the fact that we still need to do this, the structural integrity of those buildings. And today we've reported now that those areas are structurally sound and it's safe for occupation. So that I will touch on now as we are moving. The barricades will also be supported by 250 members per shift from JMPD and 50 private security personnel from the firm. So this you can see we are doing in collaboration with our stakeholders and our private security. So they also came to our rescue. So we will be having 250 minimum for any time of the shift by JMPD and an additional 50. So that will help us with law enforcement in the area, because we might not need to issue the permits, because one, the buildings are safe, and we will then ensure a level of the officers ensuring that they do some form of law enforcement. The city will also commence with the work sampling of all bulk services manholes in the area for gas leaks. This will also include the opening of bulk manholes belonging to City Power, to Telkom, and any other services, departments, and entities. Some of these manholes, we must indicate to you, they've been welded specifically to prevent some form of theft as well as vandalism. And at this stage, we are unable to immediately open those, because we do fear if we had to grind them open, those that we've welded, that in itself might ignite and have a further blast and a further disaster area there. So whatever it is that we need to do, our technical teams need to ensure that they work with some level of precision. So where possible, our teams led by EMS will be placing positive pressure ventilation fans down the manholes, and that will be done tomorrow, to blow out any gas that might still exist below. This is intrinsically safe equipment and will assist in the effort to disperse trapped gas. So those fans, they will be able to operate even if in the unlikely event of any spark or so. They are safe and intrinsically safe equipment, and therefore we will be deploying those by tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish to emphasize that the tasks that we are undertaking are dynamic, it's complex, and at this stage will have to be handled with due care, and that no heavy equipment can be deployed to the site immediately. The reason why we cannot deploy any heavy equipment like excavators, because there's then a further risk of possible collapse of that particular road. So whatever it is that we need to do, it will be done through labor. So the digging and the trenching will be done, and that will be done by hand until we are quite confident that the site is safe and all hazardous factors are cleared. So once we get to this particular point, that is then the point where your city power, your Joburg water, all other departments and entities will then start to focus in those particular areas. So what is our main priority is to get the area to be safe as well. At this stage, there's no need to evacuate the buildings in the area, and as stated, Joburg Water will provide mobile water and sanitation services to residents in the area. As the city, we are confident that we have mobilized the best skills and expertise required to respond to the incident. And we will, over the coming days, ensure that residents are updated and informed of the work that we'll be doing, and also a clear plan on how we would mitigate those particular risks and how we will then ensure that we repair the site, and also how to get the site safe for all services then to be implemented. We've also deployed advanced technologies to assess the review the underground damage to the infrastructure. And then the technologies that we've deployed are world-class and first of its kind on the continent, and have assisted us to identify underground defects underneath the surface of the roads that are still intact and unaffected at this stage. So the technology that we've deployed, that will definitely use us as we are moving forward in terms of our diagnostics. Let me once more extend our appreciation to the respondents from the city, along with the private sector and the Johannesburg Chamber of Commerce, who have been with us in supporting our efforts, and all those that came forth to provide us with some form of a helping hand. Lastly, we have also been informed that of a specific blast in Bramfisherville this afternoon. Information available at this stage indicates that it was as a result of illegal miners and is in no way linked to this particular incident in the inner city. Let me thank you. At this point, that is the end of the report for us today.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think we can open the floor for questions from colleagues. And the technical team that supports the EM includes the technical team that is supporting the city manager includes specialists on pipelines, includes the Johannesburg Water, City Power, the Chief of Police. So there's quite a full team from the city's also in our set of services that is here to respond to any technical questions that may arise. I saw firstly the head of Masina from the SABC, Goba, Eyewitness News from Africa, Gauteng. I think those are the three questions, and we'll allow you to shoot.
Those that are living in that area. So is that also including that 400 meter where the site is? And how can you be certain that those that are staying in those buildings are safe, that there's no secondary blast that could happen, but also the integrity of the buildings as well. Is it deemed safe for those that are staying inside? We also saw people in shelters saying, or people not wanting to go to the shelters. Is there any kind of understanding why the residents in this area don't actually want to go to these areas and evacuate? And yeah, so I think that's all.
Good evening, everyone. From eyewitnesses. So I have a question. I understand that the city manager went through a number of permutations about what he proposed to be. I just want to know, in terms of natural gas pipelines that run underneath the road, is there any other entity that has gas pipelines underneath Johannesburg roads besides EgoliGas? So I just want to know, because EgoliGas has denied, that any of its pipelines are affected. So I just want to know what other entities are there that the city is looking at that have gas pipelines that run underneath the roads. And the city manager spoke about EgoliGas shutting down some of its operations. Could you just please expand on that? I don't think I've got just what exactly it is. And my last question, I don't know if maybe our eyes are deceiving us, but it seems like every time we go back to that site, the hole is getting bigger, the cracks are getting longer. Is that something that the engineers have sort of noticed, or has it stopped as the cracks stopped expanding and as that hole stopped getting deeper? Thank you.
Gauteng Porter from Newsroom Africa. City Manager, thanks for those details. In terms of the three possible options that you have outlined, are you leaning towards the ignition of natural gas being the likely cause, or is it tentative to say exactly of those three options, which one is the most likely one? And then in terms of the rehabilitation process of that area, obviously, as you say, the structural integrity of the buildings around it, people can still continue living there. But in terms of road usage, obviously that will be shut down for some time. Are we able to give residents a sense of how long this might be? Might it be 2 months, 3 months, 3 weeks, in terms of rehabilitating that road?
Okay, no, thank you very much. Like we've indicated, I'm sitting here with the technical team as well. Indeed, there's no need to evacuate at this point. When we look at the work that has been done by the team and the visual condition that they looked at, that in itself clearly indicated to them, the visual inspection could not identify any structural damage nor broken windows ascribable to this incident. Only minor damages to finishes could be seen. So the team is quite clear, and I will ask the colleague Johan to indicate to you in terms of the depth and also exactly where that particular crack is, as well as what that particular collapse means for us, and where the risk is, and where and how we can mitigate that risk. So he will touch on that. With regard to those shelters versus evacuation, because there's indeed no need for us to evacuate at this point. The only thing for us is to get the site safe, and then in order for us then to reinstate our services, water and electricity and so forth. That is what we are aiming to get at this point. Once the water is shut on our side, we had to shut it down, about 8 valves yesterday, but we will then also be deploying. We have already deployed the water tankers, but we'll also now do the mobile toilets by tomorrow morning as well. In terms of the natural pipelines, other than EgoliGas, I'll ask Johan to touch on that. Out of the three options and the possibilities that we are looking at this point, and I think the technical team will also be able to touch on that, we are really looking at the one where we are saying ignition to methane gas in underground stormwater due to sewage ingress and so forth. So our team will touch on that. And remember, we did say that we've deployed also our technology in order for us to be able to go underground. And I mean, next time we will be able to show you on a projector the type of work that we've been doing and what we're going to use that specifically for the data that we would want to collect, because it will also assist us to be able then to identify and to assess the damage for City Power in terms of their cables, and also so that we can then start to then deploy our resources at that point. It's not quite clear for us when this particular road will be concluded and when it will be business as usual. And it's simple because we still need to get to the bottom of this. We need to do that rubble removal and so forth. And we've indicated that at this stage it's difficult for us to bring in any heavy machinery because the risk is too high for us, because any spark can lead to any other further disaster or any other blast. So that we wouldn't want to do. But when we provide you with a further briefing in the next 72 hours, we will then indicate to you as well. But I must indicate to you all our MMCs are on the ground. The relevant MMCs are on the ground. All executives and all officials are working quite closely with them. So we do have the political support and the teams are on the ground, and that is why we are here then to provide this technical briefing as well. Let me hand over to Johan to just touch on those technical questions as well.
Thank you. I think it is working fine now. Thank you for that. As we are aware, there is only one distributor of natural methane-rich gas at this stage. What we indicate is that the leakage could be either from the main line or it can be from a distributor, in other words a consumer, that a line may have leaked even from a building and then feed back into the cavity under the road. The cavity is built of bricks, and that is where the main electricity lines are running under it. And that is when it actually entered and it get to the level of 5 to 15%, the explosion occurred. The roof of those structure collapsed, and that is what you see as the indent in the road. So where the cracks open a bit, it's a bit of the roofs that were hanging from the sides of pieces of reinforced concrete that will just collapse further down. The structure itself is about 3.5 or 4 meters wide and about 4 meters deep. And that is why you will still see movement. It's just rubble collapsing into the hole. There's not further movement of the earth. There's not further cracking or severity. What our colleagues are also doing from EMS is that they monitor the gas levels, and they monitor the level up down to about 3% in the tunnels this morning. It increased to about 7% when they start working on the Egoli lines to just do the testing for us. But it will be monitored, and that's why we're going also with them, monitor all the basements tomorrow to make sure that all the buildings are safe, and then also do all the manholes. So I think as if the levels are low enough, it is safe for the people to return. Structurally, the type of explosion, and I have about 43 years experience in this type of field, so I've seen a number of these things. The explosion were vertical up, and that's why the roads were left, the taxis were damaged. And there were very little horizontal damage or shock waves actually going to the buildings. And most of these buildings, the footings are extremely deep and well founded. And that is why the shock at the lower level don't have an impact on the structural integrity of the buildings. And that we did look at all the buildings today, and we haven't seen any damage or lateral inflections on any of the buildings. And that's why we can say it's secure. In incidents where these type of things happen, we actually see cracks and we see deflections, and then we can actually tell you, we do further investigations to do that. So we can certainly say that the buildings are structurally safe. I think that's about it.
Yeah. It's covered.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any further questions? Last round. Go ahead. Second take. Okay, seems like we're only got one question, and maybe after that question, you can allow the gentleman from City Power just to make some comments with regards to the load shedding and how they are managing the power situation. Thanks.
I think if I got your answer correctly, that EgoliGas is the only natural gas distributor in Johannesburg. So I just want to find out that you released a statement saying that So EgoliGas released a statement saying that they didn't detect any leaks from their sides. So I just want to find, if they are the only natural gas supplier, and we do know that this was a gas explosion caused by a gas leak, then how does it sort of correlate? I don't know, how does it come together that the only gas supplier wouldn't notice anything? So I don't know if you get what I'm saying, but there is a bit of a, it's not making sense. If they are the only gas supplier and this was a gas leak explosion, then how did their systems not pick up a gas leak? If you just please just clear on that.
Yeah. Okay, so that's mine. Yes, the thing is, I can explain it to you. I worked in I actually was part of the team that built a gas line from Tamani to for Sasol and then distributed to Natal. So the thing is, the way that you detect a leak is a fall in the pressure of the gas. If it's a major leak, then it's fairly easy, and all of that equipment they already have in place. So if there was a major leak or a rupture in the main line, they would have picked it up, and that's what they reported. So they haven't picked up a major one. But once they've distributed to the consumer and there's a minor leak, it's very difficult to pick up, because you won't know if it's consumption, I'm just burning 20 burners, or whether it's a leak in my distribution line. And that is why we suspect it may be, and that was always difficult to detect. So what they have reported is they say the main lines are sound, all the equipment don't tell them there's a major leak, and all the consumption that they see is reported. So the meters that they do balance back to the consumption, and that means it's actually going out. So if it was a small leak that built up, it is very difficult to detect. We haven't really done all of the research yet. We also know there may be people, and I've seen that in previous forensic investigations I've done, that people use LPG gas that they distribute. It may be even LPG gas that leaked into this chamber, underground chambers. We can't confirm that it was their gas. We can just say it was gas. The exact incidents like this happened in New York about 45 years ago, where also 600 meters of underground pipe blew up. That was LPG. That was New York in the United States. So this is not uncommon. It's by a very sad event that happened. So we won't point fingers. I think we just know it's gas. And the detection system and the main line is in good shape. It actually withstand the explosion. It was impressive. There's a few scratches on the polyethylene pipe, but it is intact. And that is why they use the best material for the main lines that they distribute. And none of the main lines showed any defect that we could see so far.
Remember to explain. Thanks very much. My name is Charles Tlaka. I'm the acting executive of City Power for the Service Delivery Center. In terms of the power situation currently, the area that is off, it's feeding from Bree substation. It's just up the road around here, and not far away where the incident has occurred. And for obvious reasons, we could not be able to restore power to the area. And one of the key reasons is that we need to first to make sure that it is safe, because our infrastructure, as you may know, it is also underground in the tunnels. And through the damage that is occurring, that has occurred there, you will appreciate the fact that you need to be safe as much as possible. And as energy and gas together, or electricity and gas together, will cause a serious explosion. So we could not restore, firstly because of the fact that we need to do thorough testing to make sure that all our cablings are intact and they are not damaged. And before we do that, we must also make sure that we do that within the safe environment, and meaning that there's no any stench of gas or smell of gas in the area, so that if there is any problem, when we test, we inject a direct current into these cables, and any spark may cause a further problem in this regard. So we are cautiously, as soon as we get a clearance that it is safe, to do so, to do our testing. Then we'll start with the outgoing feeders that we have that indicated that there was a bit of a problem. And then upon identifying where the problem is, we should be able to respond to the problem and detect and make repairs if there's any damages. And thereafter we'll then retest again and restore the supply back to normality. So all this process will be, it is dependent on our processes to take place first. So as soon as the site is cleared safe, then we'll also start with our work from our side. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, colleagues. Thank you to our councillors from the area who are also here represented. Thank you, City Manager. And may you all have a good evening. We will communicate regularly from the technical side, and there will also be briefings from the political leadership of the city, so that both arms what's happening on the ground and what's being done technically is communicated. But thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thanks, colleagues.
Meeting again tomorrow.
Yeah. Let's just agree quickly with the acting.